Welcome to the Arsenal show. We are live. 3 days and 4 nights into the Premier League kicks off and Arsenal take on Wolves. Pre-season's done and Arsenal have silenced the Timu version of the Invincibles. They finished off with a pomp by beating League Lyon. Preparations well underway and Mikel Merino, as always, has gone above and beyond and thinking outside the box when it comes to getting the extra 1% out of his players on the training pitch.
Attenzione pickpocket! Attenzione borseggiatrici! Pickpocket!
But will it be enough? Will it be enough to when the season kicks off? The Arsenal are looking good. The campaigns are out. They've got Hollywood superstars involved. But one thing they are missing is this. We're missing this, Edu. We're missing just this meme. Edu cooking. This is what we need to be seeing. We've seen Calafiori in and David Raya. It's the only incoming so far this season. And Arsenal fans are chomping at the bit to see more. But who better to give us more information today than Steve K? How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, good to be here again. I think it's probably the first Arsenal show of the start of the season, but it's transfer time, isn't it? So yeah, looking forward to getting into it, mate.
And we're joined today by special guest Bjorn from Punch Drunk Arsenal. How you doing, Bjorn?
I'm doing awesome, Kieran. Thanks so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on the show.
No, that's good. That's all good. It's all good. All right, let's get it underway. First and foremost, we've seen some players linked with Arsenal recently, but today there's been news of Arsenal rejecting an offer from Ajax for their goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale. Aaron Ramsdale was one of the main players over the last few seasons, but his place was lost after the incoming of David Raya from Brentford on a season-long loan, which has now been made permanent. Steve, Arsenal rejected the offer. Do you know much about what the offer was? I think it was initially a loan. Was there an obligation to buy or an option to buy in that?
Yeah, I mean it was a buy option with a loan, but yeah, I mean Arsenal sort of, they rejected it out flat. Which obviously tells you they're not going to let him go easy. I think I was told a while back now that Arsenal wanted a straight sell because they needed to go and obviously buy a replacement of high standing. So they was obviously going to need money to bring that whoever that said goalkeeper would be. So yeah. Apparently they're not out the running. Apparently I can't see how they really are going to come back, because if they want a loan, and I think the next step is bidding round about 30 million for him, which is, from what I'm hearing, is what Arsenal want for Ramsdale, and rightly so. Mm-hmm. That's what he wants. We paid round about 23, so 30 million for me is what we should be looking. And yeah, and it's probably hard to see, who's going to pay that amount of money for him, because from what I'm hearing, Arsenal are adamant that he's not going to go out on loan, and they want decent money for him. So the big question now is, will he end up staying? Personally, as an Arsenal fan, I hope he does, because I think we need a quality number 2 goalkeeper, and he's a little bit more than that. We look at Allinson, we look at Kelleher, we look at Edison, they've got Ortega. Arsenal need a top quality number 2. And it's no wonder that Arteta's not going to let Ramsdale go easily. If he's going to go at all, I'm pretty sure it's going to be for big money.
All right. Bjorn, what's your take on the Aaron Ramsdale situation? I know it's been dragged along. A lot of people felt bad for Aaron Ramsdale the way Raya came in on two pretty decent seasons, I would have said. But it does look like he needs to go. There's no point in sitting on the bench. Yeah. And for Arsenal's sake, he's dropping in valuation if he doesn't go, surely.
Yeah, Ramsdale, I mean, when you consider when Ramsdale came in, he was a quality keeper when he came in. But we saw, like, when David Raya also, when he joined the side, he just elevated the team completely. The calmness he brings at the back. and just everything. I mean, getting the Golden Glove last season as well just shows that Arteta was right actually bringing in David Raya. But you mentioned it yourself, like Ramsdale does give us the opportunity to bring in some funds that we could actually reinvest into the side. I agree with Steve though on the fact that we do need a quality number 2. We saw we brought in the young lad from Ajax, the Tommy Setford, but he's not ready yet. He's not ready yet for the first team game. Also, going to take some time for him to link up with the side, to get used to Arteta's tactics. So it's a tricky situation to be in at the moment. We've been linked with the likes of Joan Garcia from Espanyol and Dan Bentley from Wolves. But are they really quality? Are they really going to be able to elevate, keep those levels in the side of the team that we have at the moment? I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about it. So for me personally, it's a tricky situation. I would like to keep Ramsdale there, but he's too good to be a number 2 probably. So having him there is just going to, like you said, his evaluation is going to drop, and we probably in the end are going to end up losing more money than actually making money, which we should be doing right now to reinvest into the side.
Yeah, I agree. Steve, do you see Ramsdale going? Like, there's a shortage of clubs that can really afford that 30 million fee, and on the flip side, that actually need a goalkeeper right now.
Yeah, look, it's a tricky one. I mean, you've got to look at it from Mikel Arteta's point of view. I mean, again, Bjorn's just mentioned Tommy Setford there. He's not gone. There's only a couple of 2.5 weeks left in the window. Tommy Setford, maybe in the future, maybe a very, very, very good goalkeeper. So look, if it's okay, us as saying, Ramsdale should leave. If he was a family member or a son or a brother, we'd all be saying, leave Aaron, go and help your career out. If you're a Mikel Arteta, you're looking at it from a totally different situation. You're looking at him from all he's worried about is the team and next season and Arsenal winning the Champions League, the Premier League, and going far in the Champions League. And he's going to want a serious goalkeeper. So we think, we can maybe sell him for 20, 25, but then you've got to go out there and get a quality keeper. Who's out there for 20, 25? We can bring in if Raya gets injured for a month or 2 months, or if he gets injured in a semi-final or a quarter-final of Champions League, who's good enough to come in and take over? And again, I totally agree with Bjorn. You look at the names that are being mentioned. You're looking at Joel Garcia of Espanyol. I think they finished bottom last year, didn't they? In the La Liga. Tommy Setford's one for the future. Dan Bentley certainly not good enough, and obviously the other Ajax goalkeeper, Dejan Ramsey, was another one that was linked a couple of months ago. So I think we're going to still. I've got a funny feeling he could even still be there. I don't look. It's all about who we can get. If we can get a quality replacement for whatever money it may be, then great. It's all about who that goalkeeper is that comes in. The price is irrelevant, but it can become irrelevant because clubs are going to know that Arsenal are going to be wanting a good goalkeeper. So it's going to be quite high. You're not going to pick one up for 15, 20 million. They're the type of goalkeepers you're looking at, your Bentleys, your Joel Garcias, your Diaz. And like Bjorn's already said, I don't think that type of player is good enough.
Yeah, 00 Sly says, I think Ramsdale will leave, even though he stays. I don't see Raya being rotated that much. It's just going to bring down his confidence even more. Sell while you can, but you've got to find a buyer first. Bjorn, where do you think Arsenal should go in terms of, do you think they should bring in a younger goalkeeper, or do you think they should bring in someone more experienced? What end of the scale do you think it should be?
Well, I think definitely someone more experienced. We brought in Tommy Setford, like Steve mentioned. That's already someone that's planned for the future. We've got Cole Hine, even though he just joined Real Valladolid on loan. He's another one that's probably for the future. So as far as going for the future, I think we're already stocked up in that position for keepers for the future. So we definitely need to look at someone experienced. I actually saw, weirdly enough, that Chesney, our former goalkeeper, actually he's going to be on the free agents list this summer. But does he fit Mikel Arteta's system? Is he really a ball-playing goalkeeper? You see, you have to take that into consideration as well, is that Arteta's clearly got a system that he wants to play. He wants to have a keeper that can play with his feet, can play out from the back. So you need to find a keeper that fits exactly into his system, because the way we play, it's so important for us to have that someone that can literally play out from the back and create the possession for us moving forward.
Yeah.
I mean, just to carry on. I mean, I think when you look at our rivals, you look at Man City and you look at Liverpool. You look at their two goalkeepers. Ederson's was out last season for a long while. Ortega came in, and you didn't know Ederson was away.
It made a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly. So then Kelleher, came in for a while when Alisson was away, and there was times when I was seeing Liverpool supporters saying that Kelleher was having like a better period of time before Alisson was fit. He was that good. That's what Arteta's got to look at. That's the type of goalkeeper he's got to bring in.
But don't Arsenal need to then sort out their scouting department and find that goalkeeper? Because Kelleher wasn't a name, Ortega wasn't a name, whereas Ramsdale had 3 seasons in the Premier League playing week in, week out, and we brought him in as a first-team keeper. It's very hard to keep a first-team keeper happy 2 seasons on the trot as a second goalkeeper when they get 3-4 games a season. And what I worry about is Ramsdale's not doesn't seem like the kind of personality to bring down the dressing room. But it's easy for your sort of persona to rub off on other people if you are down. And someone like Ramsdale, I would find it hard for him if I was Ramsdale to keep upbeat if I'm looking to go into another season as a second goalkeeper at Arsenal, when I know for me, I would be thinking I was lucky to get in that England team off the back of having 3 games all season and going to a tournament. Now, he doesn't want to go. He needs to be looking forward now. My England career, my immediate club career, I think he should start pushing for a move because he can't. For a goalkeeper for his age, it's a crucial time in his development, and 2 seasons sitting on the bench at Arsenal it would be devastating for him. I think it'd be seriously no good for him. So if I'm Aaron Ramsdale, for the sake of my career, I'm pushing for a move this summer.
Ramsdale's too good to be a number 2. He honestly is too good to be a number 2, and that's why I think someone like Szczesny, even though he might not fit Arteta's style perfectly, he's the perfect option to come in for us. He's 33 at the moment. He's in the twilight of his career, so it is winding down a little bit for him. He obviously loves Arsenal. We saw his interview when he left for Juve and for Roma that back in the day. He clearly loves the club, so he might be the perfect option to come in and just settle in that secondary role for the Gunners.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I'd be putting in a buyback option for Ramsdale. Give him a few seasons at Ajax. Once David Raya's done, bring back Ramsdale. It's going to be our replacement for Raya once he's finished. Some comments from Mikel Arteta. He said Arteta revealed squad weakness. He said that they're lacking in depth in forward areas in the squad. He went on to say, we'll see and evaluate if there is something there to decide. At the moment, there isn't, talking about bringing in players. The Gunners have been linked to multiple forwards this summer, but have only signed Ricardo Calafiori and David Raya on a permanent basis. Steve, only 2 signings this summer and both defensive players. Arsenal been screaming out for a right winger. Reece Nelson looks like he's going to be leaving this summer. Along with hopefully Eddie Nketiah, so we can raise some funds as well. Arsenal is starting to get a bit squeaky bum time for Arsenal to potentially bring in a forward that can challenge Saka or even a centre forward up top.
No, I don't think so. Not yet. From what I'm hearing, Arsenal are working behind the scenes, and I'm pretty sure you'll see at least a couple of more signings, coming in before the end of the window. I'm pretty sure of that. Arsenal have changed their mind. Sort of, they had a plan, round about January, all set for the summer on the way they wanted to go and targets they wanted to make. That a lot of that changed because of the form of Kai Havertz, and you know, and the way what he was doing, you know, the fact that he was scoring goals, the fact that you know he was doing things that you know, basically that Mikel Arteta didn't expect him to do because we brought him in as a midfielder. So that changed our plan. So that messed things up a little bit. But yeah, look, I mean, I don't think it's squeaky bum time. I don't think it's squeaky bum time at all. I see, you know, from what I'm hearing and listening to Hedo, you know, on I think it was Sky Sports recently, he turned around, he said, look, you know, it was asked about that Arsenal had only brought in Calafiori and obviously, you know, this finished up with eventually paid the money for Raya to Brentford from last season. He said, look, don't worry, Arsenal fans are not going to be disappointed. So, you know, I you know, he's normally good to his word. So I'm expecting the midfielder to come in. I'm expecting that someone up front come in. I got a funny feeling they're working on something big. Got this sneaky feeling, you know, just talking to people and, you know, and the way we've been working our business, you know, with this sort of how careful it's been, especially with the Calafiori deal. We had to we're making sure we're trying to get structure right. The Merino deal, you know, there's nothing going wrong there. A lot of people are panicking, but you know, we're just trying to get things right. We're getting our books straight. This all sort of, you know, people I'm talking to seem to think the same things are going to happen. You know,
are there any names going about that you've heard?
No, just, you know, we know, you know, the usual. We know the players that they're interested in. We know the players that he likes. But you know, we know he likes Ezzy. You know, we know there's been contact and you know, with his representatives. We know for a long while that Arsenal have been massive fans of Gyökeres over there. That's still not dead. The only thing that's changed with the Gyökeres thing is that in January it was, you know, there was a big possibility we would have paid the 86, 100, but with the form in January, February, March, April, you know, once we went into May of Kai Havertz, you know, Arsenal were never going to pay 100 million for any forward. You know, it just did not make sense. Then the plans changed, and we was looking at someone, you know, a bit younger. You know, hence why the Sesko thing come available. He turned into Arsenal's number one target. So, yeah, and look, things have changed, you know, and obviously we do need a wide player as well. I've got a funny think we're going to see 2 or 3. I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't panic. There's still a lot of clubs who haven't done any business. You know, a lot of teams. You know, we look at Liverpool, we look at Man City, we look at you know, all the teams basically in the Premier League, not done much yet. So, and I think that like in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see. But I think Arsenal will be right at the top there. I've got a funny feeling you're going to see something big happen at Arsenal, although I'm not 100% sure what it is yet.
All right. Bjorn, where do you think Arsenal should focus at their next signings?
Well, we should obviously focus on the attacking side. I think our defense is pretty much rock solid at the moment. We saw it last season as well, the best defense in the league, adding Calafiori to the side, and we've got Yuri and Timber back. I think defensively, we solidified at the moment. I think the Merino deal will happen. And I think that is actually a bit of a detriment to our attacking options, because I do believe then we're probably going to see Havertz possibly shifting permanently to an attacking position, which is good actually, because Havertz is probably better as a 9. But then that's going to cost us a little bit in the transfers, because I think we're probably going to end up focusing more on wide players rather than a striker. And I do believe we still need to sign a striker. I think if you look at the top teams that have always won the Premier League throughout the years, they've always had that main striker. And Kai Havertz possibly, I mean, he possibly could end up becoming that striker. But the thing is that these are all ifs, buts, and maybes. There's no guarantees with Kai Havertz at the moment still that he's going to score you the 20, 25 goals. Jesus as was another. He's a quality player. I mean, he's got all the attributes to be a top quality striker, but he's another one that just struggles to stay fit. So when you take that into consideration, and then you have to also take into consideration that if a player like Saka, for instance, he plays so many minutes. We saw last season he was one of the players that played the most minutes in the league. If he ends up getting injured, what do we have on the right side? Kieran, you mentioned yourself that Reece Nelson is probably looking at the exit door. then we're going to have to end up playing someone like Fabio Vieira, who hasn't nailed down a position in any sort of fashion yet. We probably saw Ethan Nwaneri is the biggest winner during the preseason. He's probably taken over the role from Fabio Vieira. I think Arteta probably likes him more in that position. So, yeah, for me personally, I think we need to look at the backup for Saka. I think that is arguably the most important position for us. Even though Jesus can play out wide, I think we do need someone that can step into that role. Who it is yet to be seen, because Nico Williams, I know, as the Bilbao man, was one that was heavily linked with us for quite a few months. He got the 10 jumper this week, so I doubt he's leaving Spain. So it's just about, like you mentioned earlier as well, you need to bring in quality. The position Arsenal in at the moment is we can't bring in any lackluster players. We need to bring in someone that's going to elevate the side, or at least be able to replace players if they have to rotate or if there's injury. So for me personally, I would say a wide player is the most important this transfer window.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I agree. Saka's been screaming.
Yeah,
a deputy that Arteta can trust for a few years now. So
the window's very small, isn't it? With strikers, you look out there, it's finding that player that fits that. But it's not so much, I think, as well, is, trying to find a player who scores plenty of goals. That's obviously part of it. But I think, one of the most important things, especially, when you come into an Arsenal side, especially the way they are at the minute, is someone who can play, not necessarily can score 20, 25 goals, someone who can fit into our system of play.
Yeah.
And that someone that doesn't disrupt, because we score goals everywhere. Look, we score goals. Martinelli can score over 15 goals. Saka can score over 15. Odegaard can score over 15. Havertz can score over 15. They all can score over 15 on their day. For me, that's enough. That's enough. We only scored 4 or 5 less than Man City last season. So if you're Mikel Arteta, you're thinking to yourself, do I want to go and spend 100 million on someone from from the Liga or someone from like the Portugal leagues who could come in and maybe not fit our system, or worst thing of all, in my opinion, is be a detriment and sort of make the rest of our players, score less. Do you know what I mean? So it's very, but he gets the big money, doesn't he? That's why it's his job to work all that out.
I think we're gonna hold off possibly on the striker this year. I think there's a big chance that we're possibly looking at getting Isak next year, and I think that's probably the main one that we would like to see. I mean, he's the archetypal Arsenal type of player. He's been linked. He's been compared to Henry so many times throughout social media and through the punditry world. So, I mean, if we can hold out another year, I don't know what big factor that will have on our ambitions this year. But if we could possibly get Isak next year, I think that would be a huge addition to the side.
Yeah.
We can't forget that we missed out on 11 goal contributions from Martinelli last season due to sort of indifferent form. Martin Odegaard didn't score as many goals and didn't get as many assists as he did previous season, where he hit near 25 goal contributions in the Premier League alone. So if we can get some of that back, we're well on our way to sort of even closing that gap, even
Jesus as well, didn't it? Jesus as well.
If he can keep fit, I have to say he's looking stronger in pre-season, which is good. He's actually not had to come out of an injury, which is encouraging. There's a few more things that are a lot more encouraging.
Do you think that's what his worry is? Do you think that's his worry, Arteta, bringing in a striker that's going to disrupt everything else? It must be like, because Sesko was his number one, wasn't it? In the end, the last time that we were sort of went full blown out for a striker that we knew that we were going for with Benjamin Sesko, and there was no guarantee that he wasn't going to start, was he?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's about disrupting. I'd say more like it's easier to bring in players when you need more, and right now we need the final piece of the puzzle in one or two positions. So it's very hard to find a player of that level, but it's also either going to bring competition to your team or be better than what you've got. And then you've got to sell that to them. So it's very, very hard. So trying to get him Merino, the price that we're getting in at the age that we're getting him in, it seems like a really good fit. similar to when you mentioned a couple of weeks ago when Arsenal were looking at Leroy Sané as an option on that right. Again, it seemed like a right fit for me. The right age for someone who can come in, the right quality. So it's finding that player at the right quality, the right price, the right age. And it's very, very hard. It's very, very hard because you don't want to overspend. If you're going to spend on the 27 to 30-year-olds, then you've got to get a good deal. Like we did for Trossard, like we did with Jorginho. You can't be spending big money on those players because you're not going to get any money back for it. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm sure they're working on it, and I'm sure they're going to pull some name that we never even heard of out the bag. And yeah, and people are going to have plenty of opinions on it as they always do. Arsenal took a huge gamble last week when they couldn't reach an agreement with Marseille on Eddie Nketiah, and it looked like it is sort of bit them in the backside as Marseille have pulled out of the deal and they've gone for Eli Wahi. So, however, Bournemouth are targeting Eddie Nketiah. Start with you, Bjorn. Eddie Nketiah, a player that Arsenal really do need to get off the books to get some money. We should be able to get a decent amount for a player who is a pretty decent Premier League player, mid-table Premier League player. But did Arsenal take too much of a gamble in trying to get those extra few million in trying to get 30 million euros from Marseille, or do you think they could still get that money for him before the end of the transfer window?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Bournemouth link that we've seen in the recent weeks, I think is actually like the perfect club for him. It's time for him. He's 25. It's time for him to lead a line at a Premier League side. Obviously, he agreed terms with Marseille, so he was keen on the move. People I see in the comments recently, people were complaining, saying, how can Marseille spend this amount on Wahi, but they wouldn't spend it on Nketiah? I think they must also understand that, first of all, Nketiah is a second-choice striker in the Premier League, whereas Wahi was a first-choice striker at a French club, probably at Lens, a rival of Marseille. So when you're buying inside your own league, you're obviously going to spend a little bit more. But yeah, I think it's time for Nketiah to move on. He's going to give us a lot of funds to reinvest into the side. And yeah, even though Nketiah is a Hale-in boy, I don't think he hasn't hit the numbers that he was meant to hit. And I think it's time for him to move on. I think the Gunners are going to get a good deal. We see Edu holding firm on the valuation for the play. And I think that's probably the best way to go about it. You need to have a set a standard of what you're willing to accept for players, because otherwise teams will start lowballing you. We've seen it with the likes of Man United and how even though their transfer dealings have been a bit better this season, we've seen how their transfer dealings have worked in the past. So I think, yeah, Edu, we got to trust Edu. He's earned our trust. I think over the last couple of seasons, he's definitely earned our trust. And yeah, I think it's time for Nketiah to move on.
Yeah. Steve, we spoke about it last night, but Eddie Nketiah, do you see Arsenal getting the money they want for him before the end of the transfer window, or do you think they're going to have to drop that fee?
I think there's a very good chance that now that Bournemouth are in, if he does go to, I totally agree with Beyond that. I think Bournemouth's a perfect club for Eddie Nketiah. And I think if a deal can be done, I think they can get the 30 million or the 27 million pound that they want from Bournemouth for him. And I think they're a little bit lucky, really, because I think we messed about a little bit with the with Marseille. And to be honest with you, I'm not surprised that they pulled out. I think they made a bid of like 25 million. And then Arsenal rejected it, and then I think they went up to a couple of million more. So they wasn't far out when you would have thought a deal could have been done, but again Arsenal rejected that. So yeah, look, if you're looking at it from Marcel's point of view, you can understand why in the end they may have got a little bit fed up and pulled out. We wouldn't have liked it. We would have said, look, you could always say, look, well done Arsenal. You stuck to your guns. But on this occasion, I think we messed up a little bit. But luckily, Bournemouth have come in. We've got a good relationship with Bournemouth. Mikel Arteta and the Bournemouth manager are very close, very good friends with each other. I think it's a great little club. And I think it's perfect for Eddie Nketiah, to sort of rebuild his career and start, because he can score goals. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure he can. For a club like Bournemouth, and yeah, we'll sort of send him off with wishing him all the best in the world, because he's been with Arsenal a long time. But yeah, look, I think we can. I think we can get it, and especially at a Premier League club. Let's just hope, keep the fingers crossed that it goes through, because it's very important, because Arsenal seem to be doing this one in, one out thing at the moment. So I think the sale of Nketiah is very important to what we want to do, like in the final 2.5 weeks of the window.
Yeah,
I think it's important also to mention that Bournemouth actually have the funds at the moment after the Solanke deal.
Yeah.
So they're definitely able to actually spend the money probably that we would want to get for him. And like I say, it's another homegrown player as well for Bournemouth. So it's definitely, I think for both clubs, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree.
Yeah.
Arsenal are considering the option of bringing in Joan Garcia, as we spoke about earlier, as a replacement for Aaron Ramsdale, according to Athletic. Brooke Norton-Cuffy is on his way to Girona, it looks like, on a £3.5 million deal after spending last season on loan at Millwall. Good luck to him. And I think he's a bit of fans' favourite at both. I think a couple of fans I spoke to were very happy with him down at Millwall, and both at Lincoln as well. Mikel Merino, latest Arsenal received a transfer blow, apparently, in the bid for Real Sociedad star Mikel Merino. But we've got Steve K here to give us the latest on the deal. Steve, are you going to alleviate all the worries of the Arsenal fans out there in every single comment section when this guy's pictures up saying, "Get it done, Arsenal. He's fumbled the bag. Sack Edu Gaspar." Every year we hear it.
Yeah, look. Again, I'm seeing the comments and reports from other journalists and articles being written about that Arsenal haven't made a bid yet, and we're 10 million off. I don't know where this has come from. Look, if it is true, then I have to hold my hands up and say, look, this is nothing that that I've heard. It was something that's been reported by myself and a couple of very, very, very big journalists, that the only thing that's this deal is being held back at the moment is the payment structure and what the payments are. So how can you be £10 million off of a deal, and apparently that some people report that there's no offer been made? It just even like Fabrizio and David Ornstein have came out and said that it's the structure and the payment that's holding it back. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there's any problem with still. I still look. Something may happen, and there may be something coming, but for what the money is, and the fact that he's not going to sign a new contract, and the fact that he's told other clubs that he's not interested in signing them, and that he only wants to play for Arsenal, and yeah, I think a few outlets are just trying to hang the story out for me, unless they know something that we don't. But we'll see. But I don't think there's anything to worry about, because their stories are not backing up what the facts are. So yeah. So I personally wouldn't be worrying about it at this moment. Arsenal are known for hanging out transfers and getting things right. The Calafiori went on for ages. If you remember last year with Declan Rice, it went on and on and on and on and on. They had to sort out this structure for this extra 5 million, and it's Arsenal, isn't it? We would have thought people would have learned by now. But yeah, look, as far as I know, and as far as who I would call the top journalists know, there's not a problem. But it's all I can say, really.
Bjorn, do you know much about Mikel Merino? Do you think it's a good signing for Arsenal? Do you think it could be a good fit? And what do you think he could bring to the team?
Well, I'm on exactly the same page as Steve. The news that I've been hearing is like pretty much exactly what he just said. Moreno wants Arsenal. Arsenal want Moreno. I think this is a deal that's going to happen. I don't think the Gunners fans have too much to worry about in this situation. We also saw Zubimendi recently reject Liverpool. So I think that actually helps the Gunners' hopes a lot
Yeah.
with signing him, because obviously then associate that they don't lose two of their main midfielders. I think, I believe that Marino is going to be an Arsenal player sooner than later. Personal terms, not an issue at all.
Yeah.
So Marino for me is going to be in the Arsenal colors, like I say, sooner rather than later. What we've been seeing with him is he's definitely a Mikel Arteta type of player. He wins his deals. He's very good in the air. We've seen how good we are at corners. Adding a monster like Marino into the set piece setup is just going to help us even more. So yeah, I think Marino I also haven't heard any of this news about that. There's a huge difference in valuation between the two clubs. I've heard that it's about 3 to 4 million. I know there's the payment structure situation where the Gunners want to pay over 3 years, where Sociedad want a bigger fee up front. But yeah, I think Marino's going to be an Arsenal player. I don't think there's too much to worry about on that end.
All right. So we just got double clarification there that he's joining the club. You heard it here first. I'm joking. He's sweating now. If he doesn't sign, it's nothing to do with Stephen Bjorn. All right, don't come after him. I know what these boys are like when it comes to transfers. They're emotional. They are very, very emotional. And news that Tomiyasu, Arsenal are open to selling Tomiyasu. Bjorn, I'll start with you on this one. It seems like the injuries have taken its toll on Tomiyasu, and Arsenal can't really rely on him too much. It's a bit of a sad one. He's been very consistent since he's come here, and the quality he's shown. He's sort of had eyes on him from Bayern Munich as well, so he's a quality player. So it'd be a bit of a loss.
Yeah, it would definitely be a loss if he goes. But to be honest with you, I haven't heard anything of him leaving. I don't think there's many clubs that are going to be interested in him, especially with his injury record at the moment. I saw him today in the pictures as well, the media pictures. So I think Tomiyasu is definitely going to be an Arsenal player still next season. We saw Calafiori coming in. We mentioned that earlier, so that brings a little bit of a hamper for him. We've got our left side of the fence is pretty much stocked up at the moment.
Yeah.
But I see Tomiyasu is definitely gonna be a gunner still. Like you mentioned, Kieran, yourself, that injuries have definitely plagued them during his time at the Gunners. And he's a quality player. He's a versatile player. He's a player that, if he's able to stay fit, is a player that we can actually use in a multitude of positions. We can use him left back, right back, centre back. It's just that ability to be available. You know how they say the best ability is availability, and unfortunately with him, he's just not been able to stay fit consistently, and I think that's actually been a big detriment for him, just building that consistency on the side and keeping his place. But Arteta values him a lot. We saw when he came back from injury, he was straight into the first team.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a good player. I mean, he's definitely a good player. But whether or not he can stay fit is a huge problem for him at the moment, and probably a big headache for Arteta.
Yeah, true. Steve, if Tomiyasu stays, where do you see him fitting in? Because obviously we've got Ben White at right back. We've got Ewan Timber can also play left back and right back. Probably his main position is right back and centre back. Tomiyasu can also play across the back four. So. But there's a multitude of players in those positions right now. So where do you see him fitting in?
Well, fit. I mean, I think I said like the other day. I think fit. He can fit in anywhere across that back because of fit. Tomiyasu can. He can come in. He can play right back. He can play left back. He can play centre back, and he can keep anyone out of their side. He's done it throughout his, the time he's been at Arsenal. He's come in. Sometimes he's come in. He's taken the place of Zinchenko, and especially when he's been on form, and Zinchenko's been flying. And we've turned around and said, you can't drop him. You got to keep Tomiyasu in. Even though, what about Zinchenko? He's been great. You can't drop him. The 4 or 5 games that he's been at, he deserved to keep his spot. The same with Ben White for a period of time. Was it last season or? Beginning of the last season, I think Ben White missed a few games. We were saying if Tomiyasu's got to keep his place. He's been absolutely outstanding, and so he can do that in the multiple positions. So really, he's probably, for me, he can take over from a left back, he can take over from a right back. But like Bjorn said, his problems, his injuries. If he can keep it up, he's a shoo-in for that position. Because it's all about strengthening and game time. And I think, like, our defence, our depth would still get plenty of game time. But again, Bjorn used the right words. Availability is the best ability, and Tomiyasu's got a history as long as his arm. He can't stay fit. So, and it's a big season for Gabriel Jesus. It's similar. These are great players. These are players that you want part of your squad. These are players that you can see in that photo at the end of the season picking up Premier League trophies. But if they're not fit and they're not, for season, 2 seasons, then you have to sell them, don't you? And bring in someone else, as not horrible as it sounds. But Tomiyasu fit. I think his best positions are left back and right back. Look, there's a big competition there. You got Timber who can play in both positions. Calafiori is now, he can come in play. Although I think he's more of a centre back. I think that's what we're going to see with Calafiori. He looked real more comfortable as a centre back. The weekend we played against Lyon. But yeah, full-back positions would be, his best position, I think, for Tomiyasu.
Yeah, true. I agree. We'll go to the comment section. A couple of questions here. Steve, so we're not buying a striker?
Well, look, if one comes available and it's the right money and we can make the deal, then it's all about who comes available. I think whether it's a winger or a striker, depending who it is and what the price is, I think Arsenal can go either or. It'd be one or the other. 1 minute Sesko could be like, come in. He could be value for money. Top striker, young, decent price. Right, he's the one I go for. Now we want a striker. The next week, a winger could come available. Yeah, good value, young. Someone that you can't afford to think, right, he's someone we've got to get. Maybe if Asani become available, he didn't sign a contract, now all of a sudden you think, right, that's value for money. We'll go and get Sane and a winger, and you don't get a striker. That type of thing. It will all depend who comes available. If Gyökeres is available and Arsenal can get him for 50 million, then I guarantee you he would be the number one. He would be the one they'd be going for. And as I said earlier in the show, I don't think that's dead because they are massive fans of Gyökeres. But we'll have to see. There's rumours about João Pedro. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. It's all about who's available and for what price.
I agree with Steve as well. Sorry, Kieran. Sorry.
Go on, mate.
No. So I completely agree with Steve. It depends on who becomes available. I don't think the Gunners are scared. I don't think Edu or Arteta are scared to actually spend any money. I think if they're even willing to spend the 70, 80 million, if it's the right player that fits the system. We saw even in the early years of Arteta's era with Ben White. Ben White was a bit of an unknown, obviously quite known throughout the English league levels, but he wasn't really a world-renowned player. But the Gunners were willing to spend 50 million on him back then, and look at the player he's turned out to be now. So I think it really just depends, like Steve said, on who's available and how we would be able to get that player. So if Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon becomes available, now I completely agree with Steve. I think that would be our number one choice. We've seen us linked with the likes of Ivan Toney, Osimhen, all of these players we've been recently linked with. And yet they are seemingly to be available on the market, but we're not pushing for them. So I don't think it's as much of a situation of just bringing in a player to appease the fans or trying to fill a gap in the team. I think it's really all about finding the player that would elevate the side. And if Isak, I think if Isak was available this window, we probably would spend 90, 100 million on him to get him. But I think the fact is that Newcastle, the numbers that I heard that they were asking for about 150 to 200 million. So yeah, and I think we're not going to spend that much on Isak.
I'm nodding like crazy there with Bill because I just as soon as he mentioned about Isak, I was just thinking of him before he mentioned those words, and I was going to say exactly the same things after him, but Beyond beat me to it. I totally agree. you know, if someone like if Isaac was like, right, he's for sale, he's 80 million, 90 million. I don't think Arsenal think twice. They go bang and they'll put it down there, and it's because he would be value for money, the right age, exactly what they want. No problem. I couldn't agree with. I think Bjorn's spot on that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's a good fit for Arsenal. Any news on Guimaraes, Steve?
No. I haven't. Murray's was that they just wanted too much, and they didn't think he was worth 100 million. And I agree with them. To be honest with you, I think he's a decent. I think he's a good player, really good player. Is he £100 million midfielder? I don't think so. I don't think he's an £100 million midfielder. And I think that turned off Arsenal and turned off Manchester City. Yeah, look, if he become available similar to like what we've been saying with Gorikis for like 50, 60 million, I'm sure he'll be someone that we would be looking at. But at the price that they want, I think they pretty sort of more or less straight away said no. You know, we like him, we're interested in him. You know, we'd like to take him. What do you offer? 100 million. No, we'll see you later. That type of thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's too much. There's plenty of players out there for less than that. So I don't see it happening. Arsenal's pre-season, you'd have to say it was pretty successful. A draw against Bournemouth, a win against Manchester United, a loss against Liverpool, but we took quite a bit from that. Then went on to beat, as I said earlier, the Timu version of the Invincibles, and then beat Lyon 2-0 in a very, very good performance from Arsenal. As you can see, all the players ecstatic at winning the Emirates Club. Even Miles Lewis-Skelly and Monieri like looking not bothered about winning the trophy as youngsters. Shows how much they really care about that. But there's plenty to take from that. Mikel Arteta actually even mentioned the likes of Thomas Partey and Declan Rice playing together. He said after the Emirates, our top players playing together and playing at their best is what we're looking for. I think they complemented each other really well in midfield. With Martin Ødegaard, worked really well, especially in the first half. So it's really good to see. And as we have many alternatives and threats. We didn't really get to see much of Thomas Partey and Declan Rice last season until the end. And we saw a couple of good performances before I think Thomas Partey's lack of game time started to sort of come into effect and performances started to drop. But no injuries in pre-season from Partey. Declan Rice back in the team, and Thomas Partey looking like he's staying, Steve. Could be a pretty solid midfield if he can keep fit.
Yeah, I mean that's the $100 million question, isn't it? You know, can Thomas Partey stay fit? First thing I think is when it comes to that is probably not. And I'm thinking probably Mikel Arteta worries and all. But yeah, look, I mean, Thomas Partey with a few games behind him is still one of the best midfielders in Europe for me. But he does need a few games behind him. It takes him a while for him to get going, Thomas. Do you know what I mean? He normally needs a couple of games for him to get up to speed. But once he is, I mean, he was very good against Lyon. And, yeah, I mean, it's... What would it mean? I mean, it's awkward. We just been speaking there about like Mourinho coming in. So we think what is in Mikel Arteta's mind regarding sort of like a starting 11? Is he going to put Mourinho as someone who's going to sort of be on the fringes and come on every now and then, or and playing certain games when needed? Who's going to be the start? What's going to be the starting and is it going to be Partey? Is it going to be Rice? Is Mourinho going to come in? Are they going to alternate, in the 6 and the 8 between Rice and Mourinho? I don't know. I think Mourinho's been brought in for numbers, but I thought Partey, he's very good. But there is the worry about his fitness. He's getting on now. He's coming into like the final year, of his contract. It's a massive season for him. An absolutely massive season, personally, I have my doubts on whether he's going to stay fit, and whether he's going to be able to keep it up. Just going back on past, I hope I'm wrong, because I've already said he's a quality player. But and I think that's probably one of the main reasons why he's looking at Mourinho and bringing that type of player in.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll probably go at the end of the season party and see his contract out. Unless, as you say, unless something comes from nowhere and all of a sudden he goes through a whole season and plays out of his skin and we win the title, and then I'd probably give him another year.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, if he can play the whole season and stay fit the whole season, I think it's a serious push for that title. It's just that extra bit of quality that we have in the option. Bjorn, what's your thoughts on Thomas Partey and a Declan Rice partnership in midfield? Do you think it could be the combination needed to help Arsenal win the league?
Well, those two plus Martin Odegaard is like the midfield we wanted to see the whole year last season, and unfortunately we weren't able to see that midfield. Like, I think it was about 2-3 matches only the whole season through that we actually got to see them play together. Yeah. And mentioning Thomas Partey, I think he's probably in the same boat as Tomiyasu. Nobody actually questions his ability. I think he's one of the best DMs in the world when he's able to stay fit. A few seasons ago, people were talking in him in the same vein as Casemiro. Obviously, Casemiro is not the same player he is anymore either. But a few seasons ago, they were being compared to on the same level as who's the best in the world. Even they were getting compared to Rodri. So we saw the goals he used to score against Tottenham. If he's able to stay fit, there's definitely a world-class player in there. The combination with Declan Rice, I think, is an amazing combination to have in the side. It's very sturdy, defensively very sound. Thomas Partey, obviously, we know how he likes to play those progressive balls forward. So for me, if Partey is able to stay fit, it's definitely going to be an asset for us. I think Steve hit it on the nail, though. I don't think Arteta trusts him to stay fit. And I think if he is able to stay fit for a whole season, it'll be pretty much a miracle at this point. Yeah. He's another player that's coming of age. He's a little bit older at the moment. We saw Jorginho coming in small little batches. So I personally don't think that Partey will be sold this summer. I agree with Steve. He's probably just going to see out his contract, probably get that big move to Saudi Arabia next year. And then we'll probably have Merino coming and then another midfielder next season. But if he's able to stay fit, like you mentioned yourself, Kieran, I think he's going to have a big push for the title this year. And he's been looking quite sharp in preseason. So hopefully that he's gotten over his injury worries, his injury concerns. And then we get the old Thomas Partey back that actually joined the club in the beginning.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think...
Go on, Steve.
No, I was just going to comment on how sharp the whole team looked. You know, against Leon.
Even Zinchenko.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Yeah. Absolutely, a great shout. I tell you what, we last season, Bjorn, me and Kieran was stuck up for Zinchenko a lot. You know, because I think a lot of Arsenal fans were getting on his back, but he did have a lot of injuries, and and he had a lot of problems off field. And I didn't think like some Arsenal fans were taking that into consideration. But the year before, you know, Zinchenko was up there with player of the season, you know, for us. So we was wondering how he was going to be this year. And just looking at him, you know, in pre-season, he's been one of our best players. So whether that's to do with Timber being fit now and Calafiori being brought in, and that's raising Zinchenko's levels again, then that's all. That can only be a good
thing. Yeah,
that's what Arteta wants.
And then that's what Arteta wants. But I just thought we looked sharp, we looked ready. When we looked on it. You know, you look through the whole team against Leon, and you know Rice looked sharp. Odegaard was unbelievable. He was fantastic. Havertz was doing his nice little touches, although he wasn't really a threat in front of goal, but he was doing a lot of work off the ball. The defence was great. You know, the set pieces, we still look like, you know, we're going to be as strong as ever. Probably the only player who was probably a little bit off of it was probably Saka. He looked like he was still on his holiday a little bit. But not that I'm having a go. I just expect so much from Saka. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I'm being unfair, but he just looks a little bit off it. But I'm sure he's going to be ready for Saturday. But yeah, really pleased, because seeing a few out, quite impressed with Liverpool. Watching Man United and Man City the weekend, and then watching Arsenal against Lyon, it was like night and
Free
day.
flowing, we free flowing at the moment.
It was night and day. It was night and day.
Yeah, it seems like a steady progression in pre-season as well. I didn't see too many people react badly to the Liverpool game because it's again, it was just at that start, the end of trying to get your fitness levels up and coming up against a really competitive team. But then the win against Man United, the win against Bayer Leverkusen, and as you said, in the final game against Lyon, they looked hungry. And I thought the same against Bayer Leverkusen. I think Xavi Alonso came out after that and said that Mikel Arteta is an animal. And I think he put that down to the fact that because he's taken his team into these pre-season friendlies and playing them at a competitive level. What Xavi last season didn't like when we came against Barcelona. It was all right when Arejo was chopping down our players, but as soon as we start biting back, he's got a problem with it. I love that from Mikel Arteta. He plays with his heart on his sleeve, and he manages like it as well. And I'm sure he's got some of that from David Moyes.
He was probably picking Alonso's pocket. You know, so he was calling as an animal, that bloke.
He was. A couple of other players who I thought would shine, some of the youngsters, and hopefully they get some game time this season, is Miles Lewis-Skelly, a player I really, really rate. He kind of goes under the radar because of the talent of this guy, Ethan Nwaneri, who looks like he's living by that wonder kid tag. Looks like a serious player. Comes into the game and he slots in like he's a senior player. Start with you, Bjorn. Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri, you think they're going to get some minutes this season and make up for the 9 minutes that young teenagers got last season?
Well, hopefully. Some of the news actually that I heard a couple of months ago, I think will get the Arsenal fans quite excited, is that Nwaneri is actually in line for a bit of a promotion into the first team. So I expect to see a lot more of him during this year. Still only 17, which people should take into consideration. He's still a very, very young lad. So just integrating him slowly is going to be a process. I think we shouldn't just expect him to start, even though he looks like a marvel. Like I even mentioned earlier in the show today, Fabio Vieira is probably the biggest loser of the preseason. I don't know where he's going to slot in now with the way Ethan Nwaneri is playing. Miles Lewis-Skelly, we mentioned how stocked up we are at left back. There's another one. I mean, if he's able to progress the way he's progressing now, I don't think it will be too long before we see him actually challenging our new, like Jurrien Timber, Zinchenko, all of those for position in the team. But both of them are still young lads. I don't think we should expect too much from them too early. I think we should allow them to develop a bit more. Nwaneri is obviously the star man. There was big concerns when we lost Chiro Obi-Martin to Man United a couple of weeks ago. But I think Nwaneri is the one. I think probably since Saka, Jack Wilshere, he's in the same caliber as those players coming out of Hale End. It's just a very, very exciting talent coming through. But for me, the biggest surprise has been Miles Lewis-Skelly. Obviously, we've known about him for a couple of years now. We've known that he is a quality player. But just the way he's matured, he also looks like he's picked up a lot of size during the last couple of years. He's grown up a lot. He looks very mature. Yeah, he looks very mature. He does looks a bit older than like he looks a bit more mature for his age than what he actually is. And I think he's definitely one. I think Arteta is a big fan of him as well. We saw after a couple of the preseason games, Arteta putting his arm over his shoulder. So I think we're going to see a lot out of these two boys. I think Nwaneri and Lewis-Skelly are definitely the ones that I think are going to take the Hale End stigma of Arteta not actually gelling the academy and the senior side together. I think those are the two players that are actually going to come through and properly develop into stars for the club.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope so as well. Because I think with Miles Lewis-Skelly, I agree. He's a captain of the youth teams as he was coming up. I don't know if you watched the Hale End documentary on YouTube. He was very much showed his maturity in that, doing charity work outside of Arsenal and loads of different things. And the early doors, I was like, this kid, he does a lot more than just playing football. And I like that.
The caliber of the man.
On the pitch, he matches it as well. So I'm excited to see both of them. Steve, Ethan Nwaneri, looking good this pre-season. I'm even seeing
Yeah.
Tottenham fans talk about how good this player is that Arsenal have got. Exciting times, but as long as he gets those minutes, surely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm someone who really would like, for him to get some minutes next season. I must admit, before the pre-season, I hadn't seen much of him. Obviously, I'd heard loads and loads and loads about him, and heard that, what the Mertesacker and what Jack Wilshere thought of him. I mean, they was putting him up there with, this guy could be better than Bukayo Saka, and he was putting on pedestals like this, and and so it was obviously he had a massive future with Arsenal Football Club, and look, I mean, I really hope that we can somehow give him some minutes, whether it's in FA Cup games, whether it's in League Cup games, and and maybe it's like Bjorn said there, maybe he's even going to get in front of someone like Fabio Vieira, and who's to say if once you can sort of play him in Odegaard's position, give Odegaard some rest, maybe bring him on in his place, because that's what they normally did with Vieira, wasn't it? Bring Vieira on in place of Odegaard, every now and then. But it does look like now where he's going to be taking over that mantle now of that sort of player who will come on and do some stuff. But he's very, very confident on the ball, isn't he? The way he runs with it, he's got absolute star quality written all over him. From what I'm hearing, they've already started talking about a 5-year contract when he's 18 years old. His birthday's 18 in March, so that's when he can sign a proper full contract with Arsenal Football Club, and they need to be started talking to him now. So, and they need to be giving him minutes, to make sure that someone else doesn't come in and grab him, which I'm sure won't happen. But looking forward to seeing him. And another thing that's good, look, we're all disappointed that Emile Smith-Rowe's gone, and it looks like Eddie Nketiah definitely going, Reece Nelson possibly as well. But we're sort of replacing them with two new faces, if you like, in Skelly and then Wary. So few ailing boys out, but a couple of new stars in.
Yeah, and your thoughts on Lewis Skelly?
Yeah, I don't know much about him. I must be honest with you. I've only sort of seen what I've seen in pre-season, and he looks really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And he's probably someone who maybe not get as much game time as what Nemweri's got chances of next season, just due to the fact of the amount of people in that position at left back. It's hard to think where you would get. I've heard some people say, maybe Lewis Skelly is one of those players you could send out on loan. There's an argument about this. Personally, I'd like to keep him here, develop him here. But at the same time, he's got to be given game time. I can see that with Namweri. I think it's going to be difficult for Lewis Skelly.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I think you can also play in midfield, Lewis Skelly, as well. So, but again, it's you putting a 17-year-old in central midfield is tough. So, I'd say let's get him out on loan. Charlton, come knocking. You've got a good track record of developing our players. Get him out on there for a season on loan and getting some game time in League One. Bjorn, who do you look forward to most seeing this season after our pre-season then?
Out of all the players, the one I'm looking forward to most is probably Martin Odegaard once again. I see he's up for PFA Player of the Year once again as well. And he's just the backbone of the team. If you see the way he presses, if you see all the work he does, all the effort he puts into the side, the way he leads the side, I think he's the gel. He's the gel that keeps the side together, and he's the one I'm definitely looking forward to the most. I think this is now his big opportunity to take over the mantle from Kevin De Bruyne as the main midfielder in the league. I expect him also. You mentioned earlier that he is someone that can rock up with about 15 to 20 goal contributions a season. I expect a bit more from him this year. I think about 25 to 30, possibly maybe like 15 goals, 15 assists. He's definitely one I'm looking forward to seeing. They also have the likes of Saliba, all of those. Calafiori coming in is another exciting one. Havertz, to see how he does up front is also something to look out for. But actually, to be honest with you, even another player that we didn't get to see a lot of last year was Jirian Simba.
Yeah.
I would love to actually see what he's capable of doing if he gets a little consistent run in the team, because we saw in preseason last year what an exciting player he is. So if we can see actually what Jirian Simba can offer, that's definitely the one I'd probably mainly look out for him. Between him and Martin Odegaard, I'd say.
All right, good answer. Steve, who are you looking most forward to seeing? And you can't say Kai Havertz.
Why not?
Go on, you can say Kai Havertz. Go on, you can say Kai Havertz.
No, Kai Havertz. No. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Kai Havertz. I love proving everybody wrong. See, and I really enjoyed that last season. So,
but now everyone thinks he's good, so you've got to find someone else.
I've got to find someone else they don't like, who I can prove that they're wrong about them, can't I? So, yeah, but that's a bit difficult at the moment because I think everybody's very likable in the Arsenal side. But yeah, look, taking away Kai Havertz, I agree with Beyond regarding Martin Odegaard. I mean, who can't be excited to watch him, next season? Yeah, pretty much agree with most of what Bjorn said there. Jurian Timber, we didn't see anything of him last season. So, it'd be nice to see how good he is because all we keep hearing is how special he is. So, eyes are going to be on him, quite a lot. I think, I may be going too far because sometimes I can go a little bit too far, a little bit over the top at the start of the season, get a bit carried away. But I genuinely think, there's been a lot of arguments about, this world-class tag. And I don't really care about world-class tags. I'm not really interested in it. I don't really get involved in the conversations. If they do it for Arsenal, that's all I'm worried about. And people can have their own views. But I genuinely think this season, players like Declan Rice, who's been talked about as a world-class midfielder, Martin Odegaard has been talked about as world-class. People have had their doubts on both. Saliba the same, and Saka. I think those four, if we can really push well in the Champions League, get to a final, get to a semi-final, win the Premier League, I think that could be that could elevate them to world class.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see that. I'll be watching to see if they can do that because they're on the verge.
Yeah.
I think Martin Odegaard's the closest. If not, he could even be there now. He's unreal.
He's unreal. I think he's one of those players that when people don't watch him and they look at stats, and when Arsenal fans talk about comparing him to the best players in the league, because that's all you've got to compare him to. You don't compare down, you compare up. And Martin Odegaard over the last few seasons has deserved that comparison. He's not been there in like De Bruyne. De Bruyne showed that he was out for 3 months, come back, twisted up knee, and it just ripped up the Premier League. Unbelievable. But it shows that level, and it shows the respect that we have for De Bruyne and the comparisons that you give him. So, look, I agree with both of you. Martin Odegaard is one of my favourite players. I could watch him play football in the garden, just with twisting and turning on the ball. He's majestic to watch. Saka, as you said, I'd like to see him develop his game a bit more. I think there's more that can come from Saka when he's more relaxed, when he's more confident. And we see that. We saw him last season for the majority of the season, and we saw him after they came back from Dubai. I think we saw that type of Saka compared to the Saka we saw in the first half of the season, which was, yes, he was getting the numbers, but I weren't seeing the performances. I want to see both now, and I think he's at that level, especially with all the criticism he gets. He can handle it now. He's tough enough now. But I'd really like to see Ethan Nwaneri. I think there's opportunities in the cup games. I think there's opportunities in Europe if we can get through the group stages early, or games when they're done and dusted. He's got to get game time. It's a good experience. I think he needs to get game times in the Premier League when games look like they're over. I think he needs that confidence to feel like he's part of the team. We don't want to have situations like we did with Chida Obi, Amari Hutchinson. We want to keep these players long term, and we want to show the other players that are coming through that there's an opportunity in this first team. Because I know there's some serious youngsters coming through at Arsenal at the moment. There's twins at Arsenal at the moment.
Twins.
They look they're on my timeline all the time at the moment, and they look ridiculous. Especially one of them is just a silky winger, full of tricks, Ronaldinho level kind of tricks. So yeah, we've got to show those youngsters that there is a route into the first team if you're good enough.
Yeah. Can I ask both of you, where do you see Calafiori, next season? What role do you see him play? If you're Mikel Arteta, I'm making you to Arsenal manager now, and and I'm making you looking at Calafiori. What's you thinking? Why have you bought him? Where are you thinking of playing him? And whose places are at risk?
Do you want to go first?
Do you want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah.
I think personally, this is one that most Arsenal fans probably won't like to hear, but I agree with you, Steve. I think he's going to be mainly challenging for that centre back position. We see we're quite stocked up in the left back position. So I think Gabriel is probably should be the most concerned with the Calafiori signing. We saw at the beginning of last season that Gabriel was a bit out of sorts in the team, not making the starting lineup. Even though Gabriel had an excellent year last year, I think Calafiori is definitely the one to raise the levels in the centre back position. Jacob Kivios is one that's likely to head into the exit door. I think out of all our defensive options, he's probably the most likely to be into the exit door. So I think he can play at the fullback position. He can play at left back, but I think he's definitely there to push Gabriel and keep Gabriel on his toes.
Yeah, I think he's brought in to keep Gabriel on his toes, and I think he's brought in to be a better option than Kirior in that left back position. I think when you've got someone like Zinchenko, Yuri and Timber who can play there, who can both play the inverted role, it's good to have someone who can play there as just a solid defender as well. But with Calafiori, he's a bit of an anomaly because he's that solid defender, big, strong, and aggressive. He's very aggressive on the ball. He's on the front foot, always likes to win the ball first, gets the foot in. But he's
a bit like Ben White on the left. He's a bit like Ben White on the left.
Exactly. I see that. I see that as well, especially in specific games. It won't be a case of we want to shut out a game. It could even be a case of we need something out of the game, but we want to keep it. We want that presence in the box. I think we've seen with Zinchenko in certain games he can play at 9s and 10s, but in games against bigger and better opposition, he's pulling out 5s and 6s. And we can't really afford that. So I think in big games like against Liverpool, you might have a Tomiyasu or a Calafiori instead of a Zinchenko. But I'm all for it, mate. I'm all for these options that we have. It's the headaches for the man who makes the big money, and that's Mikel Arteta. So I'm happy that we're raising the level of our squad. But yeah, I think we need to bring in a forward player because I can't see him playing one area on that right.
Pep does it as well. I mean, if you look at Pep, he's always trying to elevate the side as much as possible. He's always trying to bring in, even in the defensive roles, he's always trying to bring in new defensive options. And just to elevate the side, like you say, keep the players on their toes. If there's no competition for the players, the levels will probably drop because they know if they're sure that they spot, why would they try to constantly improve? Where they know if there's someone chasing them, they know they're going to have to keep their levels high to ensure that they keep their place in the starting lineup.
The only thing I would worry about if I was Gabriel, because last season, I don't know. Arguably for me, he had a better season than Saliba. I know that's with some Arsenal fans an unpopular opinion, but that's not to say Saliba was unbelievable. I just thought Gabriel had an unbelievable season.
Yeah.
But one thing, if I'm him, I'm putting myself, in Gabriel's shoes now. I'm thinking to myself, my boss likes centre backs that can play fullback as well, and every single one of them can do it apart from me. So that you might be thinking, is that
there's something to it?
Is that the reason why he's wants to bring in Calafiori because he wants him to play in my position? So because he may be slightly better on the ball, it's similar to the Ramsdale thing where Rao's got that slightly little bit better with the ball, his feet and playing it out. Where Calafiori probably better with his feet. I mean,
yeah, and he's very progressive. He gets forward and he makes another option in that midfield.
Yeah,
and even, as you saw with Italy, he was setting up goals. What I would say with with Gabriel, what he has on his side is you could actually class him as a goal-scoring defender, a goal-scoring centre-back. He's getting 5 goals a season.
True.
And that is invaluable. You don't really see that with defenders and centre-backs. You just don't see it. And he brings a presence in the box, which it strikes fear in defenders. They're worried when he's in the box. So I think he's got that on his side. So I if I'm him, I'm not worrying, because I would think of it from what we've seen with this squad. It's a squad thing. What we see with Man City, it's a squad thing. It's not a case of, oh, you got him and you got him, so he's going to get 5 games a season. No, it doesn't work like that. Look, Nathan Ake wasn't thinking he's going to get 30 games a season last season, and he ends up doing that. And Pep manages to rotate the teams enough so that everyone's playing at a highest level all the time. And I think that's what Mikel Arteta is thinking, to keep our team at the highest level in every game. We need to make sure that people are getting rotated, people are getting rested, and whoever's coming in keeps that standard. And I think that's important.
Well, that's what we saw with Saka as well. With Saka, the same thing happened, and I think that's exactly why we're looking at getting another right winger in, because his levels were dropping a little bit because he was playing so much. He was playing consistently the whole time. He was actually picking up little niggles, little injuries throughout the campaign. I mean, we saw at the end of the season that big gash he had in the middle of his shin. Yeah. And I think that's a concern for a player. If you play in every single, especially at his age, he's still a young player. So if you play in every single game, every single minute, you're going to start picking up injuries. You're going to start performing at a lower pace. So I think it is important, Kieran, like you mentioned. I think it is important to have players that can rotate, but also players of quality. There's no point in having unfortunately, it's bad to say, but there's no point in having Reece Nelson there if you don't actually believe that he is able to substitute for Saka. So if you believe that the levels will drop with Reece Nelson in the side, there's no point in keeping him. So I think I agree with you. I think Calafiori is also there to be able to rotate with Gabriel, so that the players of you can say equal level, so that when once one goes in, another one goes out, it doesn't really change the setup of the team.
Agree.
All right, that is all we have time for. Thank you for everyone who's joined us tonight. Simon, thank you, Russ, thank you, Ty. Thank you for joining us tonight, Bjorn.
Thank you so much, Kieran. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Of course, hopefully you'll be able to come on again. Thank you for joining us tonight, Steve.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure as always.
Yeah, make sure you go and follow Punch Drunk Arsenal on Twitter, and make sure you go and follow Steve K on Twitter to go and get the latest transfer news out there. Join us every Monday for the Transfer Exchange Show, where we've got transfer news across all teams around Europe. And make sure you join us every Tuesday for the Arsenal Show, where we're giving you the latest Arsenal news, transfers, updates, and everything on Arsenal. Hit that like and subscribe if you are watching on Twitter or X, to anyone else who's into that newbie stuff. Hit that like button, it's free, and hit that retweet if you're feeling extra friendly. All right, peace out, people. Stay safe and wash your hands.